Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, yes. Okay, we are going to start this meeting with MD Elementary School Principals Report. Mr. Price.
Good evening. We've been busy. I got one thing that I put on the agenda was I wanted to let you know that we were recognized by the State Department of Health recently. Our immunization records in grades 3, 4, and 5 were audited. We had over 100 records that were reviewed, and I'm happy to report that because of the due diligence of our school nurse, Mrs. Whitney, we are found in compliance with our immunization requirements for school entry and attendance as specified by health law. So Dr. Morgana and the district and Ms. Whitney got a copy of the letter, so we were pleased to find that. Not only did they review our immunization records, they reviewed our policies also that are set up for immunizations for the school board, found those to be in compliance also. So I'm happy about that, and we thank Mrs. Whitney for her help and assistance in putting that together. We had a great assembly put on by the PTA today called BMX Forward Motion. It was a bike riding event that happened right here in the gym. We put it on for all of our students in grades pre-K through 6. It was great. We got to see a really great dance-off by Mrs. Van Hague and Miss Robertson with one of the riders. I think one of them is here, our dancing queen, so thank you. That was wonderful.
That would be me.
Yes. So that happened today at school. We have our report cards are going to be out on the parent portal coming up on the 15th. So any of the parents that have had any concerns getting on, we've made note with that and been in contact with them so that we should have a smooth opening with our report cards being able to be viewed on the parent portal.
Do they not get I'm sorry, do they not get a paper copy then?
Correct. So they'll be able to go on to the parent portal. They've been able to do so, and any parents that do not have email access or in contact with the parent portal will print out a copy and send that home. We have upcoming on the 19th our annual Thanksgiving feast that's be taking place in our cafeteria, and our faculty association is going to also provide some of the students some added goodies that day for our Thanksgiving feast. I believe that's the Monday before we get out for Thanksgiving. And Mrs. Bizjack is beginning our Battle of the Books for grades 4 through 6. That's an after-school program that's coming up on the 20th of November. And prior to me seeing you again, both the junior, senior high school and the elementary school will have a parent-teacher conference upcoming on December 7th. So we'll be meeting with parents from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so that'll be prior to the board meeting, and I can address how we did with attendance and how that went with our parent-teacher conference. And that's an opportunity for teachers to set up meetings with parents to discuss their students' progress or their children's progress. I know that, I don't know if Dr. Morgano is going to be speaking to you, but we've had conversations about the coverings for our windows, and we've been back and forth on coverings for the outside of our windows. It was a safety initiative, and that Caleb, I think, is the last person in line to have a meeting that we're going to pick up filament. We've kind of had our windows that we're going to address for the safety concerns of the building. I know they're doing the same thing at the junior, senior high school, so hopefully by the time we get to December, that'll be already taken care of and done. You can come in and see what the progress was on that. And that's all I have for you.
And you want to explain why we're doing the cafeteria?
We have the cafeteria. It's not just the cafeteria. Outside of the building, we have many open spots. There was a recommendation about high winds. If a car were to come, a rock that hits the windows typically shatter and go in a million different pieces. And the filament that we would use, I think it's a 3M product, They place it over the window, it can be clear, it doesn't even noticeable, or you can tint it, or you can put a silver reflective coating on it, you have your choices. And if an item, wind or rock or
We get one of those downbursts.
downburst of the trees, it will protect the glass and pretty much hold it in place and not push in. Or if it happened to push in, it would push in as a full item and not shatter the glass. So that was the protective film that was put up. We're looking at doing certain areas that might be accessible to those things, and I think maybe Gunther, that is correct. So we've done a couple of things with the money that Assemblywoman Gunther has done in the district, including changing locks and cameras. We put the playground area in the back, area for the kids, a paved area, and this is another part of that. So we're looking forward to kind of using some of her money for some safety things that she really has wanted it to be used for. That's all I have. Any questions of me?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have our second meeting, Principal's Monday, Mrs. Muncy.
Thank you. We had the second meeting of our Scrubs Club yesterday. We have a very large number of kids participating, and on their next meeting, which is November 15th, they will be having a firefighters present.
Can you tell us what Scrubs is?
Yes, it's an extracurricular activity, but it deals, what can I say, with the medical profession, and it allows our kids, it's sponsored through our BOCES, and it allows our students to get a taste of the various parts of the medical profession. And we hope that experience will encourage our kids to apply for, if they're still interested, our new Visions program, which we have 5 of our students, which is a large number, who are accepted into the new Visions program this year. And they are off our campus for the morning session, and they actually get to shadow, eventually, doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses. They get to go into hospitals, and as they like to tell me the last couple of weeks, they're not doing yucky stuff, and they seem to like it. And they're doing very well. And it is, it's not an easy program for them. And then they come back to us, and then they have another 3 full periods. So this class is going to encourage, and hopefully we'll have even more kids accepted with the new Visions. On Tuesday, we had Miss Sarah Kuykendall, who is a graduate of Eldred, and who is a graduate of Kent State University in New Jersey. She is now the Assistant Director of Kent State University Department of Holocaust Studies. And she came and did a presentation for all of our Global Studies students and for our AP American History students. And she had some wonderful video, an excellent presentation of the history, the origins of the Holocaust, and also what occurred, which we don't emphasize as much, what occurred afterward, and what happened with the United Nations and with the human rights organizations. It was wonderful. She was so pleased to be back home, and assured us that she'll be back.
Awesome.
Our science department did a Science is Fun Night, a week ago Tuesday. And we had about 75 of our Mackenzie kids and their parents who came to the high school, and our high school kids were almost as fun to watch as the young ones. We had various tables set up with various kinds of science experiments going on. So they could actually, they're thinking they're playing, but they're actually learning some scientific principles. And they certainly loved when Dr. J is mixing chemicals and things change colors and so on and so forth. And I have Liz and I have Bonnie. We're of the group that organized it, and it was wonderful. And the parents loved it too. Hopefully we'll do it again. We have the staff that we have Jennifer tonight. We have a new TA, Debbie Dolan. And also the week of October 22nd to 26th was our yearly SAD week. We had many programs on drug education. The students that work in the SAD program did a great job. Lots of posters. We all had our red ribbons to wear. It was done extremely well. Our students received back, and you will see on your, if you don't have a bigger copy, it is abbreviated ASVAB. That's the military entrance, or I should say, it's the military aptitude test, which every school district offers. Students have to sign up for it. They took it beginning of the year, and we got their results back, all of them, last week. They get an actual letter, they get a printout of the various subcategories of the test they took and how they rank percentage-wise on a scale of 0 to 100. But it gives them a very good breakdown of those areas where they're very strong, areas where they may not be so strong, and then that is able to relate to them those parts of the military where they might be best suited if that's what they decide to pursue. We had a wonderful time this afternoon, about 5 minutes up to. We had our entire school population all on the main floor, which is like the second floor of the building. And they were all out in the hallway. And then we got to watch our cross-country girls track team and our young men who are running cross-country leave the building. And it was just fabulous to watch them. They really felt like celebrities, and they are. And I suspect they're still on the road because they're headed to Long Island. And competition starts tomorrow. It's tomorrow and Saturday, they'll be home Saturday night. And while it's something we do all the time, it was very interesting to watch our high school kids. They really are very adaptable. We did fire drill today. And as you know, we have alarmed all of our outside doors. And I made a decision to leave those alarms on. Now, if you've ever been in a school building when the fire alarm sounds, it's very piercing. But I wanted to see, besides the fire alarm sound, which they're used to hearing, what they would do when they hit those crash bars, which also have alarms on them. And they've been trained not to hit those crash bars because the alarms go off. And they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They kept right on going. And it was good to see. And I estimate we cleared the building in about 2 minutes from 3 floors. And Dr. Morgana was out there to watch, and Caleb was out there to watch, although he had his coat on. That's all I have.
Is there a student going to that?
There is not. Hannah is ill.
Maybe you're right, I added on to the scientist one. So we, my daughter and I went to the scientist one night, and you are correct, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I did ask Mr. and Mrs. Stutz if I could mention their son's name, because I didn't get a chance to ask any other parent, but Jackson Stutz had quite a few kids around him, teaching them what they were doing, but not only was it just showing them what to do, he was teaching them what the science of it was, and the kids were staring at him like he was better than Superman. And then, but I have to commend all the kids at Mackenzie also, because the kids that came, a lot of parents, they were able to sit on the sideline and watch their kids enjoy. I didn't see any kid just running around amok, and the older kids were just taking the other kids by the hand and showing them very patiently. It was really a wonderful, wonderful program to watch. And I know that I would love to see it happen again, because then the following week, every night we had to do science experiments.
Any questions from Mrs. Knight? All right, thank you very much. Sounds like oodles of good things are going on at Old School. I'm very impressed with things as usual, performance and everything, including testing in schools and all manner of diagrams and science. We just do so. We have superintendent's report and the district treasurer. Don't we usually do this office meeting?
You guys want to shoot for it? All right.
We began to gather data for the Western Suffolk BOCES demographic study. And that demographic study will go out, as I mentioned before, 10 years, which is ideal for us. As I said, we have to know where we're going before we decide how to get there. That will tell us what we need in terms of buildings and classes. I met with Cherish Bluthenick and the DA, and they will be back in the spring to talk to our junior high school students. And the emphasis will be on the younger students, to be careful about getting into a car with someone who's either not experienced or under the influence. Caleb's working hard on the impact of the compressor station on our taxes, and we may have something to add to that. Fall newsletter is out. If you had a chance to look at it, it talks about a number of our programs, including the multi-age kindergarten pre-K program, which is not totally embedded yet, but will be integrated. It's a work in progress, and I don't know, June, if you want to mention anything that you're working on with that. But in terms of integration, it's a slow process. The kids have to get used to where they are first.
Yes.
And by another couple of months, they'll be much more integrated. And it's working very well, as evidenced by parent support. And I have to compliment you, Karen, and Mrs. Martell for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Doing a great job.
you.
I'd love to visit your class.
You have to read again.
I have to read, and they have me hopping on the balance beam, but I can only hop for a short time. The controller's report is on our website, as is our response. As if you read the response, you'll know that we indicated that we're looking to exceed the tax cap this year, and that was part of our response. Gene Maxson has been with us since the beginning of the year and was with us for a period of time last year. I've asked the board, and the board has agreed to ask Jean to stay another year if she would like to do so. And I have 100% faith in Jean and Scott's ability to run the buildings. I think we have an excellent team, and I'd like to have 2 years of consistency with that team. We're moving forward with the implementation, as Scott mentioned, of the safety film. And the goal is eventually to do all the first floor windows and doors. One suggestion from one of our high school teachers was to do all the doors, and we're going to do that. Because people tend to break in through doors. I'm more concerned about a downburst, a storm event, than I am about anything else. On the website is a note from me encouraging parents to have their children take part in New York State assessments. I think it's good for kids and for us to know where we're at. And I would hate to see a kid take their first test as a high school student. The assessments, they're not perfect, but they're much less time involved than they were. And they give us valuable information on how we're doing and the needs of the student. And I'll continue to encourage parents to allow their children to take part in that assessment. We added, I think, Scott, 4 or 5 new cameras in this building?
Yes.
5?
One goes out the backside here to the soccer field, one heads toward the big toy, one goes into the back area where the playground is, and another one shoots out the front where we can see the front of the building.
So
Which we were not able, there were 4,
cameras.
extra here.
So, and those were cameras that we had, and there was no additional expense.
Correct.
adding them. We had a brief meeting today, and I can't get into a lot of detail, but I have an interest in an in-service academy for our teachers. Teachers teaching teachers, and we have to work out the number of hours and the credit and all that. But I think more of an academic focus. We have a wealth of knowledge in the district, and we should take advantage of it. And it's something I've had before, and I'd like to do it here. Currently, our non-certified teacher subs make $75 a day. I'm proposing that we increase that to $90. If we cover it period by period at $39 a period, it's $151 for the day. We simply have to attract more substitutes in order to save money. So if we can make a motion this evening to increase it to $90 for non-certified, I'd rather not wait another month. And that's all I had, unless you have any questions.
Does the board have questions?
I wish I had a picture to show you Scott dressed up as the king for Halloween. I have it on my phone, but it's better if I project it. It was a very nice event, Scott.
Yes, we had a really great time for Halloween this year.
We had a great Halloween incident as well. That was
No
awesome.
vandalism or anything that I know of. I mean, when you have a community where you can have pumpkins out on the rock wall across the street, nobody touches it, it says a lot.
It does say a lot about this community, doesn't it? Just talking about it. We'll move on to the district treasurer's report, Mr. Wesley.
So our state aid reporting has been finalized for the ST3, which is our major state aid report. The transportation aid report's been accepted, and the building aid report has been accepted. Unfortunately, currently, our attendance is still waiting to be reviewed. I've spoken to yes, we were applying for a waiver for missed days.
Oh, that attendant, because he
Yes.
just said that we had perfect attendance, or, no, I mean, we passed our.
No, so the 17,
That was
18.
for immunizations, yes. Okay.
Yes, so for 17-18, we applied for a waiver from all the power outages. And we are still waiting for final approval on it. I have spoken to the state several times on the matter. They seemed more receptive once we got, our former superintendent, Bob DeFore, happened to be up in Albany at the time. Dr. Morgano called him and asked him to show up at the door while he was up there, which he did. They seemed a little more receptive after that. I've spoken with them several times after, and they gave me recommendations on exactly how they would like to see it. But
One
it
of
is,
their issues was that we didn't have school on Good Friday,
that is correct.
and I was not about to have school on Good Friday.
And they were about to deny 3 of our days because of 1. They said, you didn't take Good Friday, so we're going to deny the other 3 because you didn't do all you could. but it seems that their position may have changed on that.
I think they still like.
So I'm very hopeful that we'll get that waiver approval. I can't tell you for certain because it hasn't happened yet, but it hasn't been rejected. Cafeteria recently had a health inspection. It passed with no findings. We did end up eliminating the salad bar. Salads will still be available for children. They'll be prepared. They can order them ahead of time, or they can go and ask to have one prepared there. We're not denying salads or eliminating them in any way. There just won't be a salad bar. You'll see on the agenda that I'm requesting that you give me permission to open a brokerage account. The tax money has come in. Our cash balance is sitting at around $8 million. I expect that in November we'll spend about $1 million, in December around another $1 million. So there'll be a pool of cash sitting there for the next 4 months that could be invested in 1 month securities safely. We wouldn't be playing the market, we'd be holding them to maturity. So as long as the United States government still exists. No. As long as the United States government still exists and they're paying their bonds, we're not going to be at any risk. And of course, I wouldn't put anywhere near the amount of money we need to operate in there. So I would leave us with ample cash reserves. But in order to do that, I'm going to need a brokerage account because Jeff Bank doesn't currently offer one.
Do you need a motion for that from us, or?
Yes, and I had them put it on the agenda.
It's
You'll
on the
see it on there.
agenda,
But I
yes.
just wanted to preface it to give you guys some information as to why I put it there. We have, and I've given you guys a draft of the audit report. I was going to put it on to be approved today. Speaking with the state, it was not necessary to have a board-approved audit, and so I didn't want to rush you guys. I wanted you guys to have a draft of the audit so you had some time to go over it before you approved it. And since there's no reason that it would need to be approved by you guys today, I didn't include that on the agenda. There were no findings on the audit in terms of any misrepresentations or anything like that. We got a clean audit. And the other findings are largely what we already know, is that the fund balance is low, and I don't think there's any need to beat a dead horse on that condition. It's been said. But the good news there is that we have a clean audit. The estimated savings for the retirement incentive, I said I would have that for the next board meeting. That didn't turn out quite as rosy as I'd hoped, but it also didn't cost us any money either. In the first year, we end up with about a $14,000 loss in cash. In the second year, we would gain $5,000 in cash, and in the third year, we gain about $20,000 in cash, or 18, I'm sorry. And I will have a spreadsheet available to you guys. I did that calculation today.
And you did it for 3 years, what about the fourth and fifth year? Does
The-
it continue to save?
The fourth and fifth year would continue to save. I do conservative estimates. We gain money even with just 3 years. And if you would like, I could stretch it out for the remaining 2 years.
5 years.
I can go 5 years. My assumption was conservative in that I assumed that the teachers may or may not retire after the third year anyway. But we can stretch it out to 5, and that would definitely show increased savings, because the first 2 years, you're paying out the incentive. I have 2 more items. You'll see on the agenda that there is a parent and family engagement policy, second reading, and a professional development, second reading. There is no substantive changes to those policies. They were made as a result of the Title I audit. They both reference No Child Left Behind, and that is no longer a law. It's now the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so the only change that I made was I went in and changed any reference to No Child Left Behind to Every Student Succeeds Act, which is why I didn't go through the whole reading and all. There's no substantive changes to it besides that. And finally, this is something that didn't put on originally, but I wanted to speak to. Last board meeting, I had mentioned that Scott Krebs had told me to look into a potential grant that was available to us for E-rate. I looked into that, and as it turns out, we had already applied for it some years ago, and there is $17,000 available to us for this year for technology. So now I'm just working with him about what paperwork I need to fill out and exactly what we're allowed to spend on it. I know switches qualify and Chromebooks may qualify, but we do have $17,000 in funding
Thanks, Kevin.
that had been applied for. and just-
Cost increase on payment.
It could. I can speak to him and see if that would be a qualifying
So we went
expense.
from 60 megabytes to 200, so that we can do computer-based testing in the spring.
Which is going to be required by the state.
Eventually, the regions will be required to be online in a few years.
That was one of the items that was listed. The WAN pipeline was something that they had mentioned as being a qualifying expense.
60 megabytes, you have more in your house.
Yeah. And that was my report for today.
Questions from the board?
Were you gonna talk about the impact of
Compressor station.
I don't have any solidified information for that yet.
What the impact is on lowering,
You went to speak to that though, so just give us
it
a
lowers
where you're
everything.
at.
It
So-
doesn't provide extra money per se, right?
It doesn't provide extra money. What it does is it increases the tax base. So originally, my thought was that we had a pilot, but we don't have a pilot. What's-
I actually made a phone call to the tax assessor in the town of Holland, Lori, and I got some information, I relayed it back to Caleb. There won't be any hard number till March 1st. They're hoping to be up and running tentatively January 1st. And then I relayed that to him, and then there was numbers thrown around out there, but we don't have a hard number right now.
The
of what they're
impact
gonna
is
be
it lowers
assessed.
everyone else's taxes.
Right.
when they supply
Yes.
water.
So what will happen is the total assessed value of all the properties will of course go up. So they're gonna come in and let's just throw a number out and say it was 25 million. They say, okay, this property's now worth $25 million. That's gonna get added to the tax rolls. So the total tax is gonna get divided amongst whatever existed before plus 25 million. So yeah, so everybody will pay slightly less at the base.
People were under the assumption that we're gonna get a $500,000 check, and that's gonna go into our
Exactly.
surplus fund. It doesn't work that way.
No.
That's not how, that $500,000 gets spread out or through the tax base. So, and that was going around out there, and I called Caleb, and I've been talking to Caleb a little bit about it, and that has to be clear, that goes into the tax base. They don't come to you and say, here's $500,000, put that in your surplus fund. That's not how it works.
Yeah, because then we'd essentially we'd go over the tax cap essentially, because we
But they do
taxed
pay-
10,414 and then they give me
pay
500.
school tax, right?
They will pay
They will,
school
yes.
taxes,
Yep.
and there is no pilot fund like the preserve.
Okay, good.
So we're waiting to hear back from the assessor in the town of Holland, because that's where the compressor station is, it's in the town of Holland, and that's where the assessment's gonna come from.
Yeah, the major effect is it reduces the tax burden on everybody else.
We get a double benefit then because they will pay taxes plus it reduces the tax base. Or it increases the tax base.
Yes.
So we get a double.
No, so what'll happen is, so let's say you take 10,414,000, right? Tax base gets increased, everybody pays a little less. When you raise taxes, let's say I raise taxes 2% this year, everybody's taxes won't go up 2%, they'll go up some smaller percentage because there's going to be a larger amount of money that it's gonna get spread upon.
So to minimize the impact. of
Yes.
the cap.
It would.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
With the Elgin Reserve, do we know how that will affect?
It's not gonna help right now. They're gonna assess to 0 for 5 years.
So that, okay, I thought I was misinformed.
And then after 5 years, it doesn't go to full assessment.
No, it goes
It
10,
won't take
20.
up to 20 years. 20?
No,
After
15.
5, it's 50, but after 5, it goes 15 years.
No, after
It's
5, it
total of
goes
50.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to 100. So first 5 is nothing, and then 10% each year until it's full assessed.
So do they pay school taxes also?
They will eventually.
And I understand that, but when I went to the town of Highland for that meeting, It wasn't very, to me, it was not very clear, so that's why I'm asking people who are more
They're paying taxes right
financially.
Yeah, they'll still pay taxes right now on what the original value is. It's the new value. So it was originally valued, actually, I think it was originally valued at 2, or 2.5 or something.
It was, but then they tore all the buildings down.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Once they tore all the buildings down, then they got reassessed, because now it becomes no buildings on the property. I don't like throwing numbers out, because I don't want it to be
Yeah, no.
misconstrued, but I think it's 1.2 million that they're paying taxes on right now. And I might be wrong with that, but that's the number I heard. So they're paying taxes.
The number itself, I just, when they gave the graph out, it was a little bit confusing.
Yeah,
So I just wanted a little bit of clarification. I mean, it's great with the compressor station, that's wonderful. But I just wasn't, I was a little confused with the thing.
yeah, they'll pay 0 for the first 5 years on the
And that's
new
what I thought.
building. Yep.
Thank you.
What's the projection on drawing people to the area because of the reserve improvements? I mean, will we get more shoppers? Will we get more house buyers? Will we get more, local employees? Is there any projections? And the rest of that matter, we know.
What'd they say, Mary Kate, 14 jobs? 14 jobs, right?
14?
Yeah.
That's what they said at the town.
That's what, I was at the town, I went to the town board meeting, actually Mary Kate was there for the budget, and, I thought it was 14 jobs they'd said.
At the preserve?
At the preserve, or is
I
it
thought it was a little more than that.
28?
Something like that. Not a
Something,
lot,
yeah, it's
but-
not gonna be hundreds.
Okay, and the compressor station?
That's,
4? Did you say 4?
yeah. Well, once it runs, it just runs. I mean, there's no, there's no everyday, there's people there running, watching it, but it's not like it's gonna man 30 people.
You
I mean-
didn't have to look at it, just very expensive, right, processing, that's right, and, the other towns.
I do think there's an upswing in people buying houses. I see solar signs on signs that were sitting for a little while, and some of the new ones, and so I do think there's a little upswing going on in the community, but I don't have these new.
Second home buyers, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay, they take taxes.
They do,
But
but
you want kids in school as well, absolutely, I get you.
that's the issue. When the enrollment goes down, yes, they're paying taxes, but the enrollment's going down. That's, it's a tough spot to be in. Because it's 90% of it's second home buyers. I mean, the other thing that's lurking around out there is that big subdivision that's part of Chapin Estates that is gonna be in this town. Because this town has to contract the fire service through Smallwood to get there because they can't get to it from here. There's a reservoir. But the way the property lines run back there, and it's supposed to be roughly a $12 million project, is what I'm being told. So, I don't know, I know that was stopped for a little while, but I believe it's back up and going. So that'll be also a tax base that'll come to us eventually.
Okay, any other questions for the people? Okay, I have a short report for you as well. I want to let you know that in prior discussions, when we had begun to address the possibility of exceeding the cap, we have found that this board is of one mind, that the possibility of exceeding the cap this year, and only this year, means that we can essentially, if it passes all of you all, that essentially we can guarantee the future of Elwood, that we will not be worrying from year to year whether we could fund a new roof or whether we could fund an emergency of some sort. That what the fund balance will do will be, what the exceeding the cap will do is increase the fund balance to where it should be, to have the cushion that every home and business should have to support itself, just to have that cushion. And so exceeding the cap this year might be a fortuitous year because we're also going to have the reduction in taxes that you just talked about by spreading that amount of money through the community tax base. So it might be a particularly good year for us to do this, but What we understand and what we promise you is that it's a one-time thing. It is not something that we would consider more than 1 year. And it is only to reinforce the fund balance. What we have done to this point, I think, has been remarkable on the part of this community and on the part of this board and on the part of these people. And that is to get us to the point where we can look at the future and say, we're strong and we're healthy. We still need more students, we want more students, we want to grow, so does every community, but we are in a solid place, and if we can restore our fund balance, we will be secure. Fair way to say it. There's always going to be things, there's always going to be possibilities, but that restoring the fund balance looks possible this year, as it didn't really a year ago or 2 years ago. We were children, we weren't. Now we are. And so, when those budgets start coming forward and we're looking at what that's going to entail, I want you to know that this board is in favor and in support, and we will answer your questions to the best of our ability, and certainly any concerns that anybody has, and we will break it down. Caleb has promised us he can do this, break it down to what it will cost per household, possibly per dollar, per month, however it makes it the most understandable for each homeowner, so that paying this exceeded amount of taxes will be explained down to the best of our
We
ability.
won't know what the percent is until January.
Right, we won't know because we don't know what the 2% is, right?
We won't know until January.
Right.
Not the 2%. You get the 2%. There's two parts to it, and something that the state is probably not going to release until mid to late November at the earliest. So it could be this month, but it's guaranteed by January because it's due March.
Okay.
So.
And we'll know what the total percent is within the increase.
Okay, okay, very good. In addition to that, I also wanted to say that Ms. Maxson, we're very glad that you would have decided that you like us enough to stay. We certainly like you, and we certainly like your performance, and the continuity and the solidness of this administration is why we feel so confident as a board this year. We have a great team, and things are really running beautifully, and I think that we feel more confident than we have in years as taxpayers, as local people, and certainly as board members and administration for this year. So thank you for that. Also, I'm your BOCES representative, and what Ms. Maxson's talking about with the new visions, they just opened, BOCES just opened a classroom in the Catskill Regional Medical Center, what used to be a storage facility, and it is now our students in the Visions Health Occupations Program actually have their classroom in the hospital itself. So they are much more involved in what goes on in the health field, and they are much more, they're very welcomed by the staff there. It's the same thing that has happened at SUNY Sullivan. We have a classroom that is opened up on the campus of SUNY Sullivan for our security program. I can't remember the name of it, but they learn how to patrol and how to
It's our law enforcement.
law enforcement program through our BOCES, through Sullivan BOCES. But the classroom is now on SUNY Sullivan's campus. And SUNY Sullivan, I was there for that one, I was thrilled. And SUNY Sullivan has welcomed us because our students will work with their security, and they will learn from adults and from people in the field. And the ex-police officer, who is the teacher of the program, is ecstatic to have them on that campus and have that classroom in the real world again, in the real world. So Sullivan BOCES is working very hard to be in touch with the community and not separate and isolated in its own buildings. I think that's all I have on my list. So if you have any questions for me, you did, we go to the last Sullivan County School Board Association dinner?
Yes.
And did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. On October 15th, the school board members and administrators of the districts of Sullivan County are invited to a dinner. And this dinner was on wellness. I started working last year with Cornell Cooperative for myself and for my own students, so I went and Cornell Cooperative gave a wonderful presentation along with the Catskill Regional Medical Center, Amanda Langseeder. And they gave out a wealth of information not only for the students, but also for the staff of the schools, and it's things that I do for myself and getting my own children healthier. I am going to ask that I can put some of these on the website for parent resources. There are different things that you can do to make your school a healthier place. There's celebrations that you can do that don't have anything to do with food. They also gave a list of healthy school celebrations or healthy food that you could have as celebrations. They discussed that in 2017, a new law came out, the New York State Smart Snacks in School Nutrition Standards, and that defines what can and cannot be used as fundraisers. So all those people who love Krispy Kremes, they can't be sold on at school time. It's against that New York State. But there's a wealth of knowledge, and so even like this sugary beverages and just things that I would like to put on the website. They also talked about a Warrior Kids program, and we use this in Monticello. It was wonderful, and it gets the kids up and moving. It is a free program for children in grades K through 5, and it's a 30-minute educational session where they sit down with the kids and they talk about what they should be putting on their plate and how to make healthier choices, and then it's 30 minutes of exercise. And the kids kind of sign something saying that they'll do less screen time and more active. All of them got an odometer to wear, and the students really loved it, so I'd really love to bring this to Eldred. I think it would just be a wonderful thing. And then on this past Friday, or 2 Fridays ago, I went to the Wellness Summit, and that is wellness in the workplace. And Cornell Cooperative would like to come to Eldred to do some wellness workshops with the faculty and staff that'll teach them like different exercises to do at their desk, exercises to do like as brain breaks, which we all know brain breaks, but maybe something a little bit different to bring to the classroom. They're also willing to do coffee and conversation or lunch and language or whatever you want to call, where they'll sit with the teachers and they'll talk to them about different ways that can help them be healthier, not just food-wise, because it's not just food that gets you healthy, but exercise and also ways to de-stress and help your students de-stress. And then they also talked about coming in and doing a healthy program with the students and with the teachers for incentives for attendance, not monetary or food incentives, but other incentives. And then I will be getting something called Potty Talks. And they are little flyers that look like this, that go in plastic sleeves in the bathroom. So when you're in the bathroom, you know, if you want something to read, it has healthy tips on it, and it's in plastic because, well, you know why it has to be in plastic, so that'll be in all the bathrooms, if that's okay. I mean, of course, I have to get approval, but it's just
Great ideas, though.
It's great. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
When I was in the Shetland Islands, there was poetry parties in sleeves, but it was poets, and so you would bring a poem, poetry in the parties. I kid you not, it was real. So
Well, through the
I'm all in support for something to read.
Through the Cornell Cooperative, she met with us in May, one of the workshops that I do at the cook school, and I haven't had soda since then, not a drop. And I don't drink wine, so we drink that
Any other comments from me or comments from the board?
I'd like to make a comment on Mrs. Maxman staying. I was one of the biggest ones at one meeting in the library about we need to go out and look for a assistant principal so we could get some stability. Well, I have a change of heart in that. I want everybody to know that I think it's a great thing that she's staying. And I get a phone call from the principal, and I thought I was done going to the principal's office when I was in school. Could you stop down and see me? And so I went down and saw Dr. Magano, and he explained to me why. And I explained to him why, that I changed my mind, that I agreed. As you can see, it's a rebuilding year here. There's 3 new board members, there's a new administrator. I think by keeping Mrs. Maxman for another year is a good thing to get some stability, to get on track to where we need to be and where we need to go. So I just wanted to make that clear, that I was one, I think I said it 3 times in the meeting, we are gonna look for an assistant principal in February, right? And we said yes. Principal. And I said, and they said yes. Well, I have a change of heart now, so I think we're moving in the right direction, and keeping stability is what we really need with a rebuilding year of the board. Academically, teachers were doing fine, things are rolling well, and I think the board meetings, and I think everything is running a little smoother than it has in the past. So I just wanted to make that comment, that I did have a change of heart, and I am very thankful you're staying.
It is a privilege to be here.
It is now time for our public comment. Please plan on coming up to the podium and speaking loudly. Please limit your comments to the consent agenda and to these reports that you've heard only. And you're welcome to come and speak to us. Questions, concerns, any clarifications from what you heard? There's a lot of information given out tonight, so please come up and talk.
Sherry Van Hague, and I have one clarification.
Yes.
Mr. Krebs was talking about us dancing, and I did not give any credit to my counterpart, Kelly Robinson. She was out there dancing with me, and the bike went over the both of us. We were laying on the floor, and it jumped right over us. Had us a little nervous. One of the kids said, "I thought you were going to die." And we thought, we did too. Just a clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson. I love it. Yes.
Joanna, I would love to work with you on that. I actually had pitched that in September to Mr. Krebs. I called them potty papers, for lack of a better term, because I wanted some with inspiration, some with stress and common techniques, those kind of things, so I'd love to work with you on that.
I would love that.
Thank you, Ms. Yanni. Yes.
The teaching assistant position at the junior, senior high school, what is that? Where is that person going to be assigned? Anywhere in particular, or is it just a fill-in position?
The teaching assistant position is necessary to take care of our part of our alternative learning center, which we have every period of the day, and has been covered in various and sundry other ways when we had more staff.
Karen Tuso covered it earlier in the year, and we moved her to the elementary to be in the pre-K program.
And what is the alternative learning center? What is that?
That is it's a space in the building, and in our case, it's the old distance learning lab. We need to have a place every period of the day. If a student needs to make up a test because they missed it, if they may need a separate location for a test and they need a spot, we also need a place where if a teacher makes a determination that they need to remove a child from a classroom, there must be space provided, and it must have coverage. In our judgment, it should be covered by someone who can teach. Because the hope is always that if a child has to be removed from class, that we now have them in a separate location, and he or she can now concentrate on the work they bring with them. And our classroom situation is now what it needs to be. And we're going to get that student back into class, but they may need to have one or two conversations with me.
So So it's like a cool down room.
It is. It also serves if we have a necessity for an in-school suspension, and we have a place where we have coverage, and it's a place where work can get done.
So the trick will probably do it, because it can also be a separate place for
Yeah,
testing
and
or
our
a separate
teachers,
place.
up until in between, we needed to have Mrs. Chuso back here to do our K, our K pre-K. I had teachers who, on periods when they weren't supposed to have a responsibility, were doing their responsibility. But they have other things to do too. And the faculty has had to pick up a lot of slack because of reduction in force. So this has worked very well for us. And if we have a situation where we may not have someone in that spot, we can also use that TA if we need to emphasize.
And that person who had been doing that was reassigned to the elementary school,
Yes,
to the pre-K
and K.
and K? So how many people are assigned to that pre-K program now? Is this in addition to the 3?
There are 2 teachers, teaching assistant, and 3 teacher aides.
Including this one?
Correct.
Okay. And one other question, on the tax collector, part-time clerical, has that person been in place? Because isn't the tax collection period pretty much over?
Yeah, they started sometime mid-October, and we were gonna retro
Okay.
appoint them.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. And then we move all the way down to I need my computer's looking at. What's the number for?
Consent items.
Yeah, 401 through 706.
Yeah, 401 through up to 801.
Yeah.
801 is the approval of the consent agenda, right?
I would like to have 609 taken out of that from 401 to 801 for the simple fact that might be a conflict of interest for me to vote on 609,
609.
since my better half is a coach.
Oh, yeah. It's not me that. It's up
Okay.
to you, but we don't.
I don't have a problem with it, I just want to make
You
sure
have
it's
every
clear.
legal right to vote. You can choose not to vote, but you have every legal right to vote on
Okay.
that.
Just throwing it out there,
Okay?
so it's clear.
So which do you want to do? Leave it in or take it out?
Leave it in.
Any other questions about the consent agenda from the board? So then I need a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Let's vote individually, please. Stacy?
Yes.
I say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And it passes. Thank you very much. We are up to number 9, old business. Is there old business for this board? Just kind of lay it all out there. We are efficient, aren't we? Yes. All right, any old business? Is there any new business? subpay to, this is for non-certified subs to $90 a day. That's my motion. Wait a second. Comment?
What's your going from?
75.
We are trying to be more competitive with the county. We can't get subs because they're made more
We
elsewhere.
have to fill it internally first.
In fact, you weren't here when, in Dr. Organo's report, we talked about the hourly rate we pay teachers to cover those classes when we don't have a sub. And it costs us for $300
$350.
Yeah,
if we cover all the areas.
and other schools are in that $90.
Yes, oh yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's non-certified subs. So that would be, then I'll ask for a vote. Yes. Yes, I'll say yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And excuse me for pointing, it's just not as official. We all wear the all this. Okay. Well, very unofficial. Okay. Andre, you had something for me.
Actually, no, I have public comment.
Okay. All right. So no more new old business. We are up to our second public comment then. This is open to the public for comment, any kind of thing that you'd like to speak about. Maybe Amador, you had something, so.
I would just like to say the Fort Jervis Rotary Club, which I'm a member of, will be donating dictionaries to the third grade this year, next Thursday.
Yes.
Any public comment? Quiet group tonight. No public comment? You are not a quiet person tonight.
I am
Go
not.
ahead. I'm just teasing you.
I have a few questions. One, first topic pertains to the bus contract, where I believe we're into the second year of the contract. Has any cost benefit, you know I love cost benefit analysis, has anything been performed on that? And are we pretty much sticking ourselves that we're going to have to continue with that because we can't fund buses? A third question is, how are we setting aside funds for the other vehicles in the fleet that are going to need to be replaced, I would assume eventually. And that's it for now, for that topic.
Yep, okay, so we're too early into details for me to tell you exactly how we'll fund our next round of buses. We cannot break this lease, looking into it, so we are going to have to stick out the lease for the 5 years. We can analyze in the last couple of years, but I can't imagine it would be beneficial to.
Well, you can't possibly be in a position to be
No.
getting out of it because you'd have to buy buses, right?
I believe when we first looked at this contract before you were here, Caleb, we talked about beginning to assess whether we would stick with this kind of a leasing situation or whether we would begin to consider going back to buying our own buses. And we said that that would happen in the third year, that we would evaluate that, see how things looked, and decide whether it was worth going forward, continuing, and also at that time to continue that, answering the other question, look at the rest of our fleet that is not under the lease and recognize what we still need, what we use, and also what needs replacing or will in the future need replacing. All of that is part of a 5-year plan. Again, some of it goes to the demographics because will we need a van and a multi-seat van and whatever we have, or will we not need those kinds of things? How many buses will we need? Those are all projections, and I believe the analysis was planned when we first talked about this in the third year, so that we could then plan on what to do by the 5th year when the contract, we had to decide, I think,
Yep.
within the 5th year before, when the contract was over.
Well, how much does a bus cost?
These buses brand new cost $117,000
Right.
for the larger
Those will
buses.
cost in 3 or 4 years. from now.
Correct, and those were
Or-
brand new leased buses.
Right, and who knows what deal we might be able to make with the leasing company, we're happy with our buses. I don't know, there's a lot of variables, so I wouldn't even go to the price of the bus right now, because we're 3 more years out from even spending that money, and certainly another year from beginning even planning and discussing.
Well, what was the cost for last year of the lease?
It's $265 every year.
265. Okay, and how many buses are run?
There are 14 of them. 12 of them are the larger buses, and then we have 2 smaller buses that are leased. They're all Thompson. Those aren't on the lease, though.
Okay, so nothing's going to need to be replaced on the other fleet vehicles for at least till next year?
At least till next year.
The status of the bullying litigation appeal?
So far as I've last been updated, is it's still in the appeals process. It hasn't gone to an appeals trial yet. So right now, it's still caught up in appeals paperwork, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
No money has been paid out.
No money has been paid out.
I would just encourage the board to be a little more transparent with this situation than was with the Thornton situation a few years ago, that still nobody seems to know whatever happened with that. So hopefully this board will be a little more transparent than that board was. Next one, Dr. Morgano's comment, response to the audit. One of the questions, I don't know whether it was being asked rhetorically, was do we need a second school? But I was wondering what the criteria would be for determining when and if we do need need to continue the second school.
Keep this school.
Mhm.
The demographic study will give us a picture of that. But at a certain point, I don't know whether it's 300 students or 285 or what the magic number is, but if the number went down significantly, it would be hard to justify 2 buildings. I have no plans to recommend doing anything with this building with the current population that we have. We simply cannot fit into 1 building.
And in the interest of transparency, we did look last year in the midst of the worst of the crisis at what it would cost to feed everybody at 1 building. There was no cost saving. As what it would cost to bus the same amount of students to 1 building as opposed to 2. There was no substantial savings. So we looked into a lot of things and found that there was no substantial savings if our numbers change. But as of now, the board has no discussion, has had no discussion, and plans to have no discussion because our numbers justify 2 buildings.
On that topic of enrollment, Mrs. Maxon, I got a little confused last month. You went over the numbers for the different classes, and I compared those when I got home to what I had been provided previously, and they were very, very close, within 2 or 3, which was certainly understandable given a few weeks of change. But you had thrown out totals of a total for 2018 of 292 students, which I believe you were assuming was the 7 through 12, and in 17, 309, and the detail didn't support those totals. So I was quite baffled by that, and I was wondering if I could get...
And without...
Could 1 number include the out-of-district students?
It could, but the other thing could be, it's a reflection of, if I remember correctly.
Well, let me just tell you, the difference
I
is...
believe that we had, and you have to look not just at who comes in, but who leaves. And we took that into account. And the number then came up, if memory serves, that we had on average about 2 students less per grade level.
Yeah, you said it was a
than we had
difference of
the year
17.
before, because you cannot go 7th grade to 7th grade. You have to follow the cohort.
But the detail that you provided when you went from, this is 7th grade, this is 8th grade, the detail, the total was 239 for this year, and you gave a total of 292
If I said 239.
No, you didn't say 239, you said
Okay,
292.
Because, and I can't tell you today, but on the evening of the report, that's what the enrollment was.
Was 292 or 239?
292.
But the detail that you provided totaled 239. That's my question. The difference was 56. 53, rather, I'm sorry.
She can look back, maybe you can come
I
up with
will,
something better
and
next
I will
month.
call you, Sue.
Okay.
And my guess is the mistake is out of my mouth and not on the paperwork. Because
Let me go back and look.
absolutely, the one number I'm absolutely sure of is that the grade level change was approximately -2.
Mhm.
So that would be 12.
When
Okay.
you stop by, we can give you all that detail.
Okay, I'd like to stop by tomorrow then, if that's all right, yeah. Because we're talking about some pretty significant changes, 53 and 86 over the 2 years, between the detail and the total, so.
It's not. That's fine.
The afternoon would be great,
Afternoon, 1 o'clock?
perfect.
Anybody?
Yes.
Oh.
Speak louder.
One more. I'm sorry. Caleb, you had said you were referring to the draft audit report. Is that the controller's report?
No, this is the financial statement audit.
Okay. Is that available for the public?
I don't know if we put it up to the public, but it shouldn't be until we finalize it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It is clearly marked draft, though.
Thanks.
I see it from here.
Okay, just jumping on Mrs. Osed's coattails, she set a great example of putting out there our wonderful alumni and students that have gotten degrees from Eldred. And so in speaking with a local newspaper, until it's finalized, I'm not going to say which paper it is, but we are going to gather, the owner and myself, write an article that will portray alumni, so people see, but he did ask that I write it for all the districts in Sullivan County, so it's not just favoring Eldred, but because of how the board of Eldred will be on top, it's funny how that works, just so that people can see what our local rural degrees and what our schools can produce, the positivity. So I absolutely loved what Mrs. Osed was putting out there, and I asked her if I could continue on that, and she said, yes, this is not as a board member. I could have stood over there as a community member. This is just me as a community member, because I think that people should see the great kids that we have. I mean, just Mrs. Hazen's son alone. I love hearing about Mrs. Hazen's son. I think he's God bless him. And just we have a lot of wonderful kids. We have some graduates soon that I just adore pieces, and I'm going to cry when they graduate. So I just think, but in other schools too, I think people need to see the positivity of Sullivan County. But I get to put Elgin on top because it's a little bit of water.
And I love seeing the names of the kids as they come back and work here in the district.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
know, in the agenda itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teachers and substitutes.
Right, on the way to different things. Okay, I have been informed that we do not need an executive session, so on that note, I'm going to do a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, board members?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Worked out.
Now, drop back to you.
Yeah, these.
And she didn't say she's going to be in my office.
Yeah, I don't have the spreadsheet for her, too.
Okay, what do you need?
Okay, thank you.
These are,
I was the only dancing
you
queen.
might be able to go outside and get it. I didn't
I had
tell
to
her.
fix that.
I was disseminated
We
with
did.
I signed the management rep letter and we take the draft off.
Teachers were like, yeah.
They're giant draft.
So hard, we had to
So they're not technically usable financial statements yet.
One of my kids had watched it.
It is a clean audit.
Miss Robinson, she
Clean audit in terms of misstatements. There's, you know,
well,
yeah, there's gonna be, not only draft, that's what's missing.
Because that's what they wrote us what we needed.
Yeah, we had to hold up. We had to hold it back to the money about.
well, yeah, and I don't think.
The way that the lease is strange.
Like, started dancing, started doing music.
Well, Ryan,
It was a weird structure. It's an ask, and then we have, also there's new lease recording. Basically how it's structured